one of the more interesting decisions that's made here is that throughout the film, we are following the wrong protagonist. Okay, so I just watched Not Okay, a new movie on Hulu, and while on the surface, I think this film can come across as somewhat shallow, I do think that if you dig a little bit deeper, this movie is playing around with some really intriguing ways of storytelling. On the surface, this movie is about a girl who feels like she's a little bit of a social outcast, doesn't really have that many friends, and decides she's gonna fake a trip to Paris and Photoshop a bunch of photos of her in Paris so that she'll go viral on social media and this guy that she wants to notice her might actually finally talk to her. Now, on the surface, that is what this film is about. But when you dig a little bit deeper, there is so much going on beneath the surface, it really warrants being talked about. So I'll admit, there's not really a whole lot of continuity between too many of my reviews, but if you did happen to go watch my review of Jordan Peele's new movie Nope, you will have heard that I really enjoy films that require you to think about them after they're done. After you leave the theater, or after you shut off the TV, or however you saw the movie, you're still thinking about what you saw. You gotta chew on it a little bit, sort of break down what you just watched. And I like that kind of stuff. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of surprised because on the surface, this movie does not seem like it's going to be one of those experiences. Once it was over, and even as it was concluding, you're really sitting there thinking like, this is a really interesting way to get a point across. I want to get some of the positives out there right away. Zoe Dutch in this movie is fantastic. This is a great role for her. I was really surprised at the range because part of her character in this film sort of existing in this like hyperized, a lot of exaggerated, sort of tongue-in-cheek version of society, but then there are also some really serious moments, and her range throughout this film, she knocks it completely out of the park. The other standout performance in this film is Mia Isaac, or Maya Isaac. I'm probably botching the first name. I honestly got nervous when I saw it was MIA, and I'm like, God, there's two ways to say this, and I'm gonna screw it up. In this movie, she's incredible. She has a side role. She's a supporting character. We'll come back to the importance of that later, but her performance in this film is so good. Honestly, those two, not only do they have a lot of chemistry working together, but their performances in this film make it worth watching on its own. Now, Zoe Dutch's character in this film, Danny Sanders, comes across as sort of unlikable, but not unlikable in like a Wolf of Wall Street horrible person who does lots of illegal things unlikable. Just sort of like, she doesn't really know any better, and she's also sort of desperate to become accepted by society. This film also plays around with a lot of themes involving sort of how horrible of a place the internet has become, and just how much it can drag people down, and how willing people are to say horrible things about people they don't even know, or things that they wouldn't say in person. So that's a central theme to this film. But one of the more interesting decisions that's made here is that throughout the film, we are following the wrong protagonist. Throughout the entirety of this movie, we are following the wrong protagonist. Now, that is a really interesting decision because there are a lot of movies out there that are highlighting a bad person doing bad things. But not that many of those movies also bring up the fact that they are very aware that this person should not be the focal point of the story that's being told. You're not supposed to like Danny Sanders in this film, and there's a very good chance you won't, because she does a lot of really unlikable things. But at the same time, you gotta be willing to acknowledge, or at least pick up on the fact that this movie is purposefully leading you down the wrong path, because there's another character in this film that is incredibly sympathetic, that is way more fleshed out, and you feel for her, but the story's not about her. And if that annoys you, good. It should, and I think it's the point of this film. It's one of those really interesting, risky storytelling decisions that I think makes this film worth watching. A movie that takes a risk like this, not really knowing if it's gonna pay off, and I thought it did. I'm sure there are people that thinks that this movie misses the mark, or it's too preachy. I don't know, people have interesting opinions on films like this, but I really appreciated it taking a risk, and I thought it really nailed it. Now, this movie has a lot of different subjects it's trying to cover, but I appreciated it attempting to reference just how insane the world has become, and especially how in media we tend to highlight or turn people into heroes who maybe don't want to be heroes, or put people on platforms who don't feel ready to be that sort of leader and have that sort of platform. There are a lot of really interesting points being made in a film like this, and all of them are being made on the side because the main character of this film is not the person the movie should be about. I really enjoyed Not Okay. There is a lot of messaging in this movie. The performances are fantastic, and if you're somebody that likes to watch a movie and after it's over, you want to be sitting there thinking about what you just saw and trying to break down if the risks that the director and the writers made paid off, give this one a shot.